Don Rutilio is a curandero, which is Spanish for one who cures, for a healer. And there is a tradition throughout Mexico and Latin America of curanderismo, this sort of practice and study of curing. Curanderos and curanderas, men and women, carry this role. And I am asking him in some of these questions about how he came into this role, how he first felt the pull from his people or from himself to become a healer, and then how he was trained in that and had begun his apprenticeship or his period of learning at age 12. At the time of this interview, he was 82 years old, and he says that he was drawn into it because so many of his people were ill and dying, and he felt the need to help them in whatever way he could. The way of his people was to take a kind of wild mushroom, psilocybe mushrooms that contain psilocybin. These mushrooms grow wild in those mountains, and they induce a kind of reverie or altered state. They're taken very respectfully, ceremonially. This is the tradition of the Mazatec people. And in an apprenticeship, they might be taken alone in order to learn how to ask these big questions, how to see into a person's body or into their life in order to help them be well, then how to treat them, what plants to use, what ritual practices to advise. It's almost a kind of psychotherapy or narrative medicine that they use too by asking questions about a person's life. Don Rutilio speaks only Mazatec, and one of 18 active indigenous languages spoken in the state of Oaxaca. And it's remarkable that still many of the elder generation in that part of Mexico had never taken on the colonizer's language, which is of course Spanish. And although he may understand a little bit of it, he never speaks it. So we communicated through an interpreter, which would be his granddaughter. It's well known that when a culture retains its original language, that language encompasses its entire worldview, its relationship to that place, its sense of what's real, and how magical or spiritual elements interact. All of that is ensconced and alive in the language. So we know from the many disruptions to traditional life that the severing of a culture from its language or the moving people from their native place to another place is what tends to fracture or fragment their worldview. So it's very beautiful to see an ancient original language being spoken, and we know that among people of knowledge, of whom Don Rutilio is one, that the language itself is sort of the container for this kind of knowledge. I am an ethnobotanist who studies the relationship between plants, mushrooms also, and human beings. That means that I'm trained in botany, mycology, and anthropology, as well as some spiritual traditions. And I've developed my own style of field work, and that usually is to just spend time with people whom I get to know. It's a relationship, a long relationship that, like any good relationship, requires nurturing, patience, and in this case, a coming and going. Botanical Dimensions is an organization that was founded 30 years ago in 1985 by myself and my former partner, Terence McKenna. And it's dedicated to ethnobotany, ethnobotanical education, field work, and a lot of questions about the relationship between nature and culture. The mission statement is to collect, protect, propagate, and understand plants of ethnomedical significance and their lore. And the lore is a really important part of it too, because that's the folk knowledge that's been handed down in the oral tradition, and that indigenous people are still very, very involved with. And we're more affected by ancient botanical lore as it comes to us than we modern folks actually realize. Observo a sus descendientes caminar este estrecho sendero en un futuro desconocido. Ellos confían en mí para contar su historia en el mismo espíritu con que viven el cuento. Gracias.